and thank you for being with us here in this webinar of the fall prevention stand down. This is the 11th year for us, and I believe this is the second or third year that we have with these professors from Puerto Rico. My name is Jose Herrera. I work with OSHA in the Construction Directorate, Washington, D.C. We have Rafael Caballero. He is another of our professors, as well as Jose Orlando Fernandez Avilés, Roberto Miranda, and Victor Seda, who also works for OSHA. A little bit about the presenters. We have Rafael Caballero Torres. He has a bachelor's degree on biology science. He has also having some master degree studies in pharmaceutical science on medical chemistry and a master's degree on environmental management with a master on environmental planning. Rafael has an experience in pharmaceutical research, security, and occupational health, management of emergencies, and the environmental field for more than 2 decades. Professor Caballero has also been active as a speaker in different professional and media scenarios. And he has been sharing his knowledges on the environment, occupational security, safety, renewable energy, and disaster preparedness. Since 2008, Rafael has been a professor of the Science Academic Division, Science, Technology, and Environment Academic Division of the Ana Geméndez University, and since 2017, he performs as the director of the Environmental Education Institute of that university. Moving to Mr. Jose Orlando. He's currently performing as a security and occupational health manager. He develops the implementation of the 12 golden rules in occupational safety program in the firm Lord Construction Group. His career in the security field, the safety field, has more than 20 years in a construction project for a global biopharmaceutical company. He also performed as an officer of health and occupational safety in the Puerto Rico State Insurance Fund Industrial Hospital. For more than 12 years, he has trained hundreds of workers in the Atlantic Ocean Training Center in Puerto Rico in topics such as fall protection, excavations, trenches, and soil mechanic, confined space with required permits, and others. Our third instructor is Roberto Miranda Palacios. He started his professional career in the pharmaceutical industry, year 2000, working as a project engineer and then utilities supervisor. In 2005, he founded the Vertical Rescue Institute that specializes in training on working in confined spaces, rescue, and emergency management, among others. He worked in the environment and security area of the health department. He was in charge of the emergency brigade, confined spaces, LOTO, and working heights. Mr. Miranda is the coordinator of the Caribbean region of the National Commission of Rescue in Caves. He is also affiliated to the Speleologic Society of the United States, and also a trainer in the Atlantic Ocean Training Center, Puerto Rico, since year 2015. We also have some information about Victor Seda. He was born in Mayagüez in June 30, 1962. He studied in the school San Agustín de Cabo Rojo, where he graduated in May 1980. In 1986, he completed his bachelor's degrees in science with a major in industrial engineering of the Mayagüez University uh, building. He started working in the Department of Labor and Human Resources for 1991 as an officer of compliance at the Health and Security Office of San Juan area. By 1996, he moved to the Volunteer Program Division in Security and Occupational Health Administration of Puerto Rico, PROSHA, as a consultant of security and occupational health. This division changed the name and it became the consulting program, and he works there on to date. Mr. Seda has more than 3 decades of experience in the security and occupational health field, and he is a very committed officer. He's committed on achieving a better well-being for workers. So they are here for you to take advantage of all of their knowledge. We will start with the presentation on participation certificate. We start with this workshop, and I will show you how companies can print a participation certificate. The certificate is a way to prove that you are proactive with security awareness. And as you will see later, your participation will help the agency to improve and identify errors from their point of view. You can go to our website in www.osha.gov. All of the information here is free and is a lot of information. There's a wealth of resources to explore. First, as you can see, the page is in English, but we have the translation option into Spanish. For this presentation, I have pointed the elements with a green square up on the right upper side. There's a blue globe that says languages. That means languages. And you click here and find Spanish. Then you see the page in Spanish, and we will go to the tab that says temas, topics, and we will choose construction. You can see here an example of the page. For your convenience, I have a QR code that will bring you directly to this page. And here you can have different resources for you to help managing a healthy work in construction. So you go to this area, click on Parada de Seguridad Nacional. This will bring you to this National Security Parade that has more information to explore. Find the fourth tab. It says participation certificate, click there. And you can also see a QR code. This is an example on how the page looks. To print the certificate, please write the information of the company. Enter the company information in the spaces that have a red asterisk. Question number 7. You can talk about how the information was presented to the employees regarding full security. For example, having a meeting only to discuss this with your employees. Question 8 is how can we prepare better initiatives? And here we can have the example of a company. Below is the button for you to create or generate the certificate. Here you can select to print in English and the Spanish, and of course, both of them. You press the blue button to print the certificate. It will be a PDF file. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you, everyone. I also forgot to tell you earlier that this webinar is being recorded and it will be sent via email to those who have registered, and it will also be in YouTube. I will give the microphone to Rafael. Thank you, everyone. Hello, everyone. We are going to be working, and this is an introduction. We are interested on you to know what we do here in Puerto Rico as education, authorized educational center or training center. What you can see is the promotional poster that we are using this year. You can see our names. We are the institution of or environmental education of the Ana Geméndez University in Puerto Rico. Some story about us. In 1990, we started offering training on environmental topics. Later on, we started offering training on management of hazardous materials, and at the beginning of the 2000s, we became part of the Atlantic Ocean Training Center as an authorized educational or training center, part of the consortium of the Rutgers University, which is in New York, the University of Buffalo, from the New York State, and we, Ana Geméndez University in Puerto Rico. So with the 3 institutions, we have the Atlantic Ocean Training Center. We are authorized by the Natural Department of Puerto Rico, and we work in collaboration with the Puerto Rico OSHA and a management agency of the Bayamón city. For you to know a little bit more where we are in the Caribbean, you can see some images, some Google Earth images. You can see the images here of where we are in the Caribbean. We are in the city of Bayamón in San Juan metropolitan area. That's the building. That is the building where we are, the training center. These logos that you are seeing in the screen are the logos of the 3 institutions that are part of the Atlantic Ocean Training Center. And the following picture was taken about 4 years ago. But you can see the representatives of the 3 training centers of the from the meeting we had in November 2019, a little before the pandemic. So we can call this photo a kind of historical romantic photo. We know what happened afterwards. Regarding trainings, we cover topics that relate to hazardous materials, or what is HAZWOPER, emergency response training, and hazmat, that has to do with that. Regarding the management of biological waste, infectious diseases, fungi, remediation of fungi, which is also the psychological part of the work in disasters, that is worker resilience, and also asbestos inspectors. Regarding the courses of the OSHA Training Institute, these are only a sample of some of the courses we offer here in the Institute. You can see they have a number code and then the name of the course. So this is for those people who are watching. When you want a course that has the identification of a number code, in this case, OSHA number 511, Security and Occupational Health Standards in the construction industry, that is a course of the OSHA Training Institute, and they can only be offered by an authorized training center. In this case, we are here in Puerto Rico, and you will see in some of the other images, you will see all of the training centers that are spread all over the United States. We also offer trainings for people who will become authorized instructors by OSHA, and also update courses that these people have to take. Some other OSHA courses are the outreach courses, which are known in out of the United States. These are 10 to 30 hour courses. They are disaster or maritime industry. We have a training program as a certification. We put together different courses, such as specialty and security and occupational health, that can be industrial construction, and there are some other programs, leadership on security and occupational health, and management of hazmat management. They are together, they are offered together with the other members of the Atlantic OSHA Training Center, which are Rogers University and the University at Buffalo. We are participating in this type of stand downs, and we have collaboration with different agencies and organizations, such as radio and media organizations, radio, television, and so on. So they are done over here. We have been working in the community and with other areas, professional organizations that are benefit organizations. We were working during the emergency of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, and this is the poster of the activity. This is what we used last year, and this year's poster. You can see the collaborators. We will mention them later. You can also see the map. The United States, including Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is not exactly as you can see it in the map. This is just to indicate that we are part of the locations in the United States, and where the stars, where you can see a star, is a training center located there's many jurisdictions in the United States and their territories that don't have a training center. The calculation is that there is about 30 jurisdictions not having an authorized training center. And that means that those who are in these places need to travel or wait for one of the training centers brings the training to their site. For us in Puerto Rico, it's quite frequent that we receive people from our region, especially from New York, but they also come from other places. This image is a composed image of what you were seeing in the Internet OSHA page, listing all of the authorized training centers. And you can see that the Atlantic OSHA Training Center is part of Region 2. You can see the flags of the jurisdictions and countries that are impacted by us all year long. We receive a lot of people from Puerto Rico, but often we receive people for training. They come from the US and some other countries from Central, South America, and the Caribbean. I also want to thank to all of the collaborators in this webinar, OSHA, NIOSH, CPWR, AOTC, the university uh, where I work at, Rogers, the General Contractor Association in the Puerto Rico chapter, the AGC of America, Puerto Rico OSHA, and our instructors, Jose Orlando Fernandez and Roberto Miranda. Something that we can be wondering is why are we here? Why are we talking about all of this? I need to tell you, training is basic, but there's a number that I believe is important for us to know. And that is in the last year 2022, almost 5,500 people died somewhere in the United States and their territories. This is a very high amount of people. If we compare it with year 1970, when the OSH law is approved that gives rise to OSHA, the agency, at the time, 38 people died a day per day. Today, that has been reduced to 15, thanks to the management carried out all this time, but there's still a high percentage, around 22-23% of people who die are Hispanic or Latinos. We are saying one worker of those who die every 96 minutes, every hour and a half, one person in the United States lose their lives in the United States. So the rate of people dying among minority groups, Latinos are the ones that unfortunately have the first place, which is not an honor. People died at work. That's why this activity raised and the interest of OSHA of reaching to the Hispanic workers in their language so we can contribute to reduce the number of fatal accidents and the number of deaths. So there's a lot of work to do. I will give the floor to Jose Orlando Fernandez, who will continue with you. Hello. We will be talking about some things from the very beginning. I'm talking to my siblings, my brothers, those Latinos workers who speak Spanish. Rafael's statistics is really true. It's a very sad statistic, but it's true. And in the digital area, I started having a photo of a portfolio. We in our no in our billfold we carry the photos of people who we love. When we didn't have cell phones, we were very proud showing the the billfold, showing the pictures of our wives, our children, those who are waiting for us at home. Now we have it in the phone. We need to be alert for those people so that we can come back home to them. Coming back home gives a sense to what we do. And to go back home, we need to work safely. That's a perfectly balanced equation. If we work safe, we go back home. Therefore, I'm going to share with you a presentation of a company where I work at and has participated also in some security projects. That company is NLX. After some fatal situations, this company took action. They said this cannot happen anymore because these are our people. And they developed a campaign, a stand down, in 2023 and 2024. And I'm going to show you some summary or some part of it. Andre, 46-year-old. Pedro, 29. Igor, 22. Ay, Dios. David Sebastian, 49. Yuri, 59. Danut, 50. Ascente, 50. Gianluigi, 25. This year, 8 people left to work and they never came back home. We want to keep working together. We assess the risks very carefully. We use personal protection equipment. We follow the work methods. We apply the stop work policy. Let's stay together. Okay, we are live. As we could see, that campaign started after these 8 fatalities. We have their names, we have their ages. We don't want any other men. We don't want to have any more of them because we need to analyze our job. What is our job? After the analysis, we need to see if we need a way of doing things, a specific way, a safe way. And we can't have this if we don't have equipment. So what is equipment that can be used for that? There is a policy this campaign is trying to start, which is the stop work policy. It has many names depending where it is developed. Some other places are known like stop card, that is stop work card. And this is something we need to be part of our work culture. If it is not safe, we stop it. According to the OSHA law, is that any worker who understands their life is in danger or at risk, they can say no. But we want to go one step beyond because that's what represents the lives of our colleagues. What is the tool that can help us? That is not a paper tool. That paper tool is our work and the analysis we make, and we need to talk about that. What's the scenario where we can get to work? Probably we are in a hurry and we didn't analyze. And somebody said, you need to do this, that's the job to do. And those who don't want to work, you go home. We hear a lot that talk in our workplaces. So we need that labor culture to improve our security. Let's look at this next video. Good morning, everyone. Let's take a look of the main news on the day. Labor accidents increased as compared to last year. We also saw an increase of accidents with permanent sequels and deaths. Work security is still a topic for the companies. Good morning, Pedro. We are late. We need to get up to date. The sun plates have arrived. We need you up there, but I have never done that. I normally work on the ground, but that's okay. That's why I'm here. Do I have to bring something in? The team is going up. We need to carry security equipment on the roof. Well, the material to mount the lifelines is not here yet, and also some other materials. We cannot wait, otherwise the delivery will be delayed. Actually, what is needed is to have some care So what are the security devices? Again, don't worry, go and do that. Okay, I will do it. It is the same, the news of the year and the increase of labor accidents as compared to last year. Good morning, Pedro. We are delayed. We need to get up to date. Where do we start? The sun plates are here, but we need to secure the light, and the line of light is already installed. And the team is ready for the meeting before we go up on the roof. I will explain you what you have to be careful of there. And when you are up there, you are always tied to the lifeline. If you don't have any more questions, have a good day at job. If there is something that is unexpected, don't play hero. Stop and we talk before we continue. These facts are inspiring actual events. On December 28, 2022, works for a construction we're doing. One of the workers were asked to go up in the roof, even though he didn't comply with the requirements and the security measures had not been taken at work, and the worker up on the roof could not secure his life. During the operations, he stepped on one of these things, and he suffered serious and permanent uh, injuries. 9 days before, in one of our works in Andalusia, Spain, a worker of one of our subcontractors was working at the roof of a building to install sunlight, and the worker, he was fit and duly formed, was installing a protection thing, but he didn't fall in the floor. He was secured to the line of life. After 1 meter, he stopped falling and he came to the hospital center. He was able to go back on the same day home. Security is a matter of everyone. I'm sorry, the writing was running really fast. I couldn't have time to interpret those. Thank you to the NLS people. I can't hear him. Okay, what was the difference from one event to the other? That's what we need to talk about. The roof is the same, the height is the same, What is the difference? The difference is training, planning, and the possibility of stopping when things are not right. The purpose of all this is that we can include in our work culture that security is first or second. No, no, let's not talk about that. Security needs to be one of our fundamental values, core values. Why do I prefer to say, not to say that is first? No, because if something else happens, then it will take a second or a third place. Security has to be a core value. That means my life. So being a core value in our culture, then we need to be 100% sure that we are taking care of each other. Those of us who follow a faith, uh, or those of us who remember who the history of Cain and Abel, when they asked him where he was, he said he didn't know. And they said, you have to be the guard of your brother. So we are here. We are the guardians of our brothers, for us and whatever is surrounding us. There are so many techniques for us to remember where to look at. Some people are called 20-20-20, so that we need to look at 20 feet around for 20 seconds every 20 minutes to see if there is something that shouldn't be there or something that is not secure. We need to get that. First, security as a core value. What is the consequence of having security as a core value? That we protect each other. How can we effectively protect each other? We will talk about that. We protect each other if we know what we are going to do. I know the work I'm going to do. I establish steps, the way of doing it. If I don't have the steps in which my task is divided, I need two additional things. I need to know what are the risks of each part of my work. I set the risks, then we carry out the assessment, the different type of analysis, the task safety analysis. You can give it the name you want, but there must be a way that we can formally define what is what we want. Once we define the risks, then we will see how we can eliminate it first or replace materials and procedures. That's great. Then we have to move to engineering controls. Yes. Sometimes they are not. Sometimes we need to take administrative controls. They are also taken into account. And finally, we have our personal choice. My colleague Roberto will tell you all of those very interesting things about the equipment. But before we select our personal protection equipment, I need to know what I'm going to do and what is the safe way of doing it. The consequences of not thinking about that or not daring to defend our lives can be fatal. So regarding planning. I need to know my task. I need to know the steps. Each step will need me to analyze it and to analyze what is unsafe, what can harm me. And once I identify that, I go and see how I can eliminate that. There was a comedy show in Puerto Rico, and that was very interesting. At some point, there was a bid to paint a telecom antenna or tower. The comedians were doing a bid, and let's get that contract. So the comedian gave the lowest price of all, and they were awarded with the bid because their price was the lowest. The manager of the channel congratulated them, but Don Choi Castro said, as soon as you have the tower ready for me, I will start. Those who work on heights. Oh, he says, when you lie the tower down, then I will start. Those who work on heights will know that sometimes you cannot do that, but we need to find ways of working and doing it the best way. So I wanted to close my participation with the commitment that we can work. We have provided materials for you to access on how to conduct risk analysis. There are some documents of the Puerto Rico OSHA office, and they are very valuable documents. They are a simple way of for us to get in touch with what we need to do. So that would be all from me. We'll see you later. Thank you. Thank you. This is Miguel Miranda. I'm going to talk about my presentation. Let's see what are the phases of a fall. You can slip, trip. There's a failure in the equipment. Then I have a free fall until that deceleration. That can be that the lanyard starts opening or we hit the floor. Then we rebound if I don't impact the floor, and then suspension. Let's talk a little bit about the free fall and what happens to the body, what we are submitting when you are falling. We are governed by the gravity force. If you see a square there, means that that acceleration, the body that is falling is not linear, it's exponential. That means that it increases as time goes by. For you to have an idea, I'm at your size, I fall and you blink in that moment. That is 1/3 of a second that I went 18 inches, and you can say it's a short time. The second blink, I moved 6 feet. On the third blink, which is a full second, I have traveled 16 feet. What we have learned in movies, the Fast and Furious and that kind of things, those are totally unreal. When you fall in 1 second, you take 1 second on reacting. You know, boxers such as Trito Trinidad, they react really fast, but not that fast. In half a second, I am 6 feet away from you. We don't need to learn this equation by heart. This is for you to know. We know all of these type of equations, gravity times time, and we have a small chart. Can you please change? So in this chart we have here is a representation of the fall times and meters times seconds. And if we put it in miles per hour, what is the height or the distance? I have traveled in meters and in feet. I almost got 22 miles per hour. I moved 36 feet. And that speed keeps increasing for each one of the traveling times. At 15 seconds, I have 329 miles per hour and moved about 402 feet. And well, when we go to the 15 seconds, you have 329 miles per hour and the place this travel for this height. The final speed, so that you can have a comparison, we don't think about meters or feet, but the speed of a parachuter of the US Air Force is 150, 180 miles per hour, which are 241, 300 kilometers per hour. But if it is a Falcon Peregrino, a Pilgrim Falcon is 242 miles per hour. This is a bird that when he hunts, falls in free fall and raises a speed of 242 mph. The world record of terminal speed is Mr. Felix Baumgartner, who marked 843 miles per hour, 1,377 kilometers per hour, jumping and the force of gravity pulling him towards the earth. But uh, what he does is he jumps and the gravity pulls him. In this presentation, this became the fastest car in the world, a Bugatti Chiron, 304 miles per hour, which is 489 kilometers per hour. If we made a comparison between the speed, Bugatti Chiron record was 135.9. And if you had the car, you would be faster than the fastest car in the world. Bugatti Chiron would take 28.6 and on free fall 28.6. The speed is 204 hours miles per hour in free fall. And that is the jump that was made in almost 400 miles per hour. So if your car had the acceleration of gravity force, the equation to determine time as final speed in the quarter mile would be as what you have seen. There are some street cars that have high speed, but they wouldn't go to that 198 miles per hour speed. So what you see it is your car would go in 12, 18, 1 seconds for 281 miles per hour. And this is only speed that is the result of gravity. So I need to tell you, people think that speed will depend on the weight of the person. For example, this is me and somebody, or I fall and a skinny person falls, and everyone believes that I will fall at first. We will go at the same speed, but I will hit the floor harder. Okay, for example, Pedro falls from a 3-meter height, and you can see the times of falling and the final speed 17 miles per hour. Let's imagine he falls twice the distance, 20 feet, 6 meters. 1.1 is the time, and the velocity will be 20.24 miles per hour. So the equation of force can be to measure mass per speed square. We cannot use in this example. I don't have the final speed. So we can use the potential energy, that is mass per gravity per height. It is going to be expressed in joules, and the mass is in kilograms, gravity meters per square second, and h is the height of from where I'm falling. Determine the impact force of Pedro when he falls 3 meters or 6 feet. Pedro falls, he's 75 kilograms, and he impacts the floor with a force of 2.2 kilojoules. That is the impact force Pedro gets when he impacts the floor. Now, Pedro falls twice the distance, but he still weighs the same. But when he impacts the floor, he impacts with 4,414 joules, or 0.4 kilojoules. Now, Pedro gains weight. Now he's 100 kilograms. He falls 20 feet, and he impacts the floor with 5,875 joules. So that's what I'm telling you. The final speed will be the same a skinny person or a big person, but the impact will be greater. It was 4,400. Now I gain weight. I impact the floor with 5,800. The strongest bone of the human being is the femur, what we have here in our leg, and that bone breaks with an impact of 180 joules. So if you weigh 75 kilograms and you fall, you will impact the floor with 1,018, 1,020. So what is going to happen to one of your employee and if they fall and impact the floor? Well, that will happen as it happened with the Humpty Dumpty story that we heard when we were children. A comparison of forces. If a person hits you with a 22-pound hammer traveling at 1,800 meters, will impact with 1.6 kilojoules. If you fall from your from the roof of your house, you will impact even greater than a person hitting you with a 22-pound hammer. And that is under the assumption that you are 75 kilos. For example, a car that weighs 4,409 pounds goes at 60 kilometers per hour, impacts a person with 278,000 joules. There was an accident in Mexico, in Puerto Rico, where a car impacted a person and totally disarmed that person. If an insect hits your car, explodes, the strength is that it's huge. Uh, small, more cycle that is 133 kilos traveling at 40 kilometers per hour impacts you, it will hit you at 2.06 kilojoules. The same impact as if you fell from the roof of your home. So believe me, the comparison, you can see I fall from the roof, I'm going to have a bad hit. But I have convinced you I'm going really quick. I will hit the floor really hard, but where can I connect to? A simple expansion designed to work in concrete, 9.5 millimeter diameter with a depth of 41.3 millimeters installed in concrete of your home roof. And they have a tension of 2,030 pounds. But the manufacturer determines that if it is going to receive an impact force, it will only hold 25% of its resistance, which is 2.2075 kN. So it used to hold 27 and now it can hold 2.2. It's not designed for an impact. Pedro falls. He weighs 75 kilograms. Gravity is the same. The height is 6 feet. The distance of the absorbent, the one that we use in all of our projects, is 3.5. Peter has a 1.237 kN impact. My question is, the expansion stays or goes? It stays because the expansion is not going to hold 1.17. So the impact is 1.23. So it stays. Pedro Falls now remembers when he was a scout. He has a rope he used to have when he was in the troop. He uses it as a lanyard with 6 feet. That is the greatest a lanyard can be. And the hiking rope has a 20% elongation. The same example, Pedro Falls, the rope expands 20% and he impacts that with 3.7 kN. Does the expansion stay or goes? It goes. Pedro got an impact of 3.7 kN, 225 pounds more or less. It's about 1,000 pounds that impacted Pedro. If you have ever shot a gunfire, a revolver produces 9 pounds of strength. Imagine somebody impacted by 1,000 pounds. So what do you think is going to happen in this example to Pedro? When he has something that is holding his eye, he's going to break him. Pedro now decides to use iron. Okay. That has a 2% elongation. Same example, he fell the 6 feet, and the impact for Pedro will be 36.7 kN. The expansion goes, and the impact of Pedro is over 8,000 pounds. What is going to happen to Pedro? He's going to break. Some important references, you have the numbers there. The system has to guarantee that the distance of this deceleration of an employee is not greater to 3.5 or 107 meters. So we need to know that to measure 3.5, being strong enough to support twice as the force of a worker falling 6 feet. And I want to stop for a second because what it says there in the note, it is considered that the maximum weight of the worker with tools is 140 kilograms. If the worker exceeds this weight, the employer has to guarantee that the system works. We need to stop here. Now they are asking for equipment that moves to 400 and more pounds. The industry is moving there. My recommendation, if you have a worker that is on the heavy side, just as me, and weighs more than 300 pounds, my personal recommendation is put him to do some other thing. Why? Because if he falls the 6 meters, which is the maximum he can fall with 3.5 feet, is going to open, the lanyard will open fully. The distance is going to elongate. And when you calculate a great distance and I am close to reach that limit of weight that is established and says that the maximum strength is 1,800 pounds. It took as the number that 310 pounds. Take that in consideration because working in Puerto Rico, when you see somebody, you say, I don't know how much he weighs, but my recommendation is you ask. Why? Because the day something happens, you will go to court. And the question is, did you know the weight of your employee and of your worker? And that's where we start having. Another important part is the 101. I won't read it, you have it there, but what do I want to say? It has happened in different jobs I have had. It says, it doesn't have to do on fall protection because people think that that they only need to comply with the fall protection standard, and they forget they need to comply with everything else that applies. It's important. The employer shall provide prompt rescue in the case of a fall or must ensure that the worker can do a self-rescue. So remember this, the employer must provide a prompt rescue in the case of a fall. My own experience is that most people I have trained say this is not compliant. I trained a person once and I said, what's your plan if your employee falls or your worker falls? Well, people from the department comes and they take care of that. So their rescue plan was calling 911. And believe me, it's illegal. The employer must provide a prompt rescue in the case of a fall. So the responsibility is not the state, is the employer. The harness syndrome, one of the questions that was made for the next presentation, the harness syndrome. What is that? Look at the picture in there. Not only that person that you see, if he has not exceeded the limit, is about to do it. Do you think he's comfortable? Do you think that is a natural position? It is not. If you see his center of gravity, is that the lines that are crossing his chest and shoulder is starting to strangle him. And he blocks the blood flow going through the legs. The veins and arteries are strangled. Poorly used harness will not protect you as it should. It can be fatal with a person in less than 30 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes after the accident. So the harness syndrome is also suspension trauma or short or orthostatic shock. And what happens? That lack of movement starts closing the vessels, the blood vessels, and toxic accumulation happens. The transfer of different toxics, and the blood coming back is contaminated with that oxygen. Symptoms can be dizziness, sweating, increase of the heart beat, and loss of, they can faint. And if you don't help the victim quickly, they are at risk of dying due to a blocking of the respiratory tract, lack of blood, or thrombosis. How to prevent the harness syndrome? Education to workers, no equipment piece replaces the knowledge, none of them. That's what I tell people who I serve. Don't buy the latest harness that costs more than $100. I'm not saying it's bad, that is really good, but before you get to that level, educate your workers. A lot of people will provide service and bring you equipment. If that is your reality, keep the basics and educate your personnel that every person uses the proper harness, that there's a fall prevention plan, that your company has a rescue plan for suspended personnel. A lot of people I trained, many times the rescue plan is bringing a ladder to that person. That's simple. On more complex works, but for those works, you need to have a rescue plan. Have the victim to reach the floor as soon as possible. That's what you want to happen. What to do if you are suspended? Roberto Miranda fell. God protect us. I was suspended. What should I do? I need to reach the floor as soon as possible. The loss of, you can faint between 3 to 5 minutes, 30 minutes can represent death. If you are using a harness and you are suspended in the harness, use a line knife, a BTA, a ladder, the systems that come from my harness, and you can wrap them together to put a weight and transfer your weight from the back to your butt, transfer it to your legs. So the legs are holding your feet and not this strap that is strangling your vein or your arteries. And if possible, lose those straps, of course, if you can. What you need is to make the circulation move of your the circulation of your blood. If I'm next to a wall, put your foot and push yourself from the wall so that you put the weight on your legs, and that will help you not to strangle you. Keep your legs moving. I read an article that we have been sharing in PDFs documents that you can read them. Move your legs as if your life depended on it. And that is not anymore anything that is truer than that. You need to start moving your legs. Otherwise, what I have explained will start happening. Try to eliminate the pressure points that are causing pain in the harness. Of course, you cannot remove the harness, but if I can lose it a little bit, if it helps, do it. If you are rescued, you are conscious and aware, don't Remove the harness. Stay at least 35 minutes seated. Don't lie down. That won't help. According to the studies of the documents that we are sharing, they tell you not to lie down. Stay seated. Move your legs softly. Don't walk for 45 minutes. Go to the hospital. You need to go to the hospital. Don't say, no, I'm fine, I feel fine. No, you have to go to the hospital. They need to make some blood work. You might need dialysis to prevent kidney failure or death. You go home and then you are sleeping and you die. That can happen. Remember to repeat the blood work in 2 days, within 2 days. Remember that acute kidney failure can take 1 or 2 days. I went out of the hospital, I feel great, and in 1 or 2 days, the problem is again. Don't think that because I fell and they took me down, the emergency ended. You need to be supervised at all times. What not to do if I'm suspended? I failed, I was suspended. That is difficult, but don't panic. Keep calm. Tell your people, let's hear what they are telling you. You are here. Don't stop moving your legs. Your life depends on it. Don't get exhausted physically. Keep a rhythm. You know your rhythm. A person started moving the legs as if they were running, that they won't be able of holding for a long time. They will get tired, and when they get tired, they stop moving. Don't lie down if you are rescued. Stay seated for at least 45 minutes. Don't go home. Go to the hospital. Don't get fooled. If they give you a quick release, repeat the blood work 2 days later to make sure that your kidney is working properly. Uh, the anchoring point certification was one of the questions. You have the address there, and you can read what he's saying because he's reading really fast. The anchoring should be support 5,000 pounds by worker connected, or they must be designed, installed, and used as part of a full personal system for stopping falls that keeps a factor of security of at least 2, which is 1,800 pounds, under the supervision of a qualified person. Qualified person. Certification of anchoring points. You have there 5,000 tons per worker connected. We learn by repetition. I'm saying this again. You can tell me if in Puerto Rico it can happen. Each one has, Puerto Rico has Puerto Rico OSHA, so it will depend on the state. But for federal OSHA, the keyword is qualified. It doesn't say it's a licensed engineer. The same in Puerto Rico, Roberto. Is it the same? Yes. We didn't change anything in there. Excellent, thank you. Useful life of the harness, and that is very important. OSHA, ANSI, they don't determine the life of a person. They move the responsibility to the equipment manufacturer and the user, the person who is using it. After I have answered this, that OSHA doesn't establish useful life, ANSI doesn't either. We can relate to other entities that create the PPA. The selection of maintenance for emergency equipment. Yes, emergency equipment, but a full body harness type 3 establishes that software, Milombo, and the different mixtures is 10 years from the manufacturing date. Again, ANSI does not establish that, and OSHA doesn't, but you know that FBPA mentions that happens. If you ask me, I would take the 10 years, assuming that there is inspection of the equipment or they stop passing the inspection. ASTM, the American Standard Technical Society, under designation. I'm so sorry, this is not the right slide, and he's moving really fast in numbers. But anyway, the ropes that are used for rescue, nylon, polyester, and so on, they have 10 years from the manufacturing time. Based on that, I tell my customer when they pass the inspection, they said after 10 years. In summary, prevention, prevention, prevention. Train your people, explain them. The majority of a person, I would say 99.5, 95% of people working on systems against faults have never hanged in them. And since they haven't done it, they don't care. Some people have them wearing it down here. They need to put them properly. Train your personnel in case of an accident to wonder what they are going to do. If you wait for the employee or the worker to fall to know what I'm going to do, you are late. The, the employer has the responsibility to provide prompt rescue. The responsibility is the employer. This is the end. People, you have the information, you can get it. We are here. My name is Roberto Miranda. We are going to work with any question or some questions that were sent to us. Victor Seda, if you are around, you can turn your camera. This person is asking what is the most disruptive control contributing to prevention of fall accidents. The most disruptive control. Can you hear me? Victor, can you hear me? Yes, but I don't know. It seems like the person refers to what is the most disruptive that is contributing uh, uh, for a fall. How can they avoid a fall? That would be as I would interpret this. This is what I think. If I have a disruptive control, not that does not contribute to the fall, what I believe can be better is that you design a system that there is no fall. I can be working with a passive system and be very happy. If I need a system, I need to wear a harness. I prefer never to get to the edge and fall. If I can restrict my movement, I will be happy because there won't be a fall. I avoid rescue planning. I avoid risk of the Lindbergh effect and a fall. And something else that we also need to take into account. Why did the fall happen? there can be a trip, but it gets worse if the person that falls has suffering low sugar or is going through a stroke, because then there's a health problem that is also an emergency and has to be also attended together with the fall. The prompt response is crucial then. So if we take that, then how do we end with the fall? Well, the fall should not happen. And when we think about the hierarchy of security, elimination, the first one is eliminate. What you are saying is important. It's important that we all need to understand that any protection system used has limitations. It will have limitations, and you will exercise a force of 200 pounds. But when you trip and you fell against the rail, maybe the rail will fall and will fail and you will fall. Also, when you have a harness and you fall, but you will have a trauma. And what we need to do is to avoid the fall. Of course, some people, when they abused of that type of protection, is what they call a restriction line, and they don't know there are parameters that you need to follow for a restriction line, that it has to have certain resistance. When the standard changes, a restriction line will bring some parameters of the resistance that restriction line should have. And this can be used and brought to the construction. Roberto shows some examples of an MDTA for the useful life of the equipment. Probably we don't have them as regulatory, but these are things that will help us to keep that equipment from failing. All of the equipment can fail. We need to inspect them every day, harnesses, ropes, the rails, because they can fail. And if we don't want to fall, that would be our goal when we have these courses. The professor said, what is important is not to fall on the floor, and not, for you not to hit the floor, you cannot fall. Another question, what is the maximum distance of free fall and the maximum distance of stop with a retractable block class 1? Use a SDL. The standard says you cannot fall more than 6 meters. Your system must be designed for you to fall a maximum 6 feet. When they are mounting scaffolding, it will allow you to anchor to that. At some point, the scaffold will be in the floor. And then you have another structural part, you raise that. So if I will fall from my feet to my neck, plus the 3.5 feet that is going to open. So you technically didn't comply with the standard because you didn't design it in a way guaranteeing that the greatest distance was 6 feet. And SDL is not clear on Pigman how much is going to fall, but by experience I can tell you that it's about 6 to 9 inches. I can also tell you that all of those equipment have a maximum weight. For example, there's an internet site where we get equipment from China or India, and you can tell whatever, it can say whatever, but it doesn't mean that it is. And you use it as if it was a good one. Please explain people what an SDL is. Probably is what I'm talking about. I call it a yo-yo. A yo-yo that you can go to a certain distance. But when you have a fall with a system, we can have a shock absorber. You need to add to those 6 feet, 3.5 feet, because if you fall if you had a 6 feet free fall to reduce the impact force, you need to calculate 9.5 feet. The arms can also account for 2.5 feet. So the fall can be 10 to 11 feet. And they are not breaking the free fall established by the regulation. But that is what the fall protection equipment will give you. Yo-yo is the least of those because they fall over the 6 feet. That will never happen or should never happen if the equipment is properly bought. What is important about the yo-yo, they are spectacular if they are over you. It needs to be anchored over you. Literally, they will use them tied to the floor. And it will take time to stop. Add that if Roberto Miranda falls and he fell, as I explained, down to the floor, the yo-yo, the steel cable, be careful because you won't be able to work with that cable. You have had that experience, but I understand that the yo-yo, they are using some standard and they are classifying them type 1, type 2, and type 3 because they have features of the impact force and the resistance to cutting or tearing where they reach the concrete edge. When you talk about expensive or cheap things, technology is not helping and manufacturers are moving to those problems with the existing equipment. We have time for 2 more questions. One talking about yo-yos and anchoring. What says past the anchoring point and how can you determine these anchoring times that are permanent and temporary? And let me talk about my experience. Let me start. What I'm going to say is temporary and permanent doesn't exist because they need to be there when the person is there. If the person left, I don't know if it is going to be there or I'm going to take them because the time and the exposure are gone. But the owner of the building is going to tell you, I don't want that hooked to the roof. It is important to know that when it was installed, it complied with the regulation. Remember the word qualified person, a person who has knowledge and can tell you. Over the analysis I made on the roof of a pharmaceutical, and they are going to use a 4x4 that are that are holding to the concrete. You can use to those. The same with railings in pharmaceutical industry. The railings are part of the structure and they can hold 200 pounds, and that is a piece that is held and welded to the concrete. So they need training. In the world I come from, we tie to a tree or a rock that can be difficult in the industry, but the knowledge I have worked in other places, and I know I can tie to that column, I can tie to that trim. And things have moved a lot to different attachments. Uh, and things that are designed to hold an impact, also for different types of columns that can hold hold impacts. So there are so many things that can be used. Also, for the structure, they can have anchoring for the columns, and that complies. Specified to comply with the standard and stop the fall. We need to read the information provided by the manufacturer in order to know if that's what we need. A last question, and that answers by itself, but it's important to clarify. The person asks, I am the only worker, I have subcontractors. Is that person is the only worker because it's the ABC construction and the owner is the only worker and the others are subcontractors? That person becomes the employer of the subcontractors in terms of the OSHA regulation. So that person is taking a responsibility by subcontracting those people. I would refer to my mentor, Victor Seda. I knew it. There are many things here that we can cover. The OSHA law is only for labor. If, for example, I want to be the general contractor on my own, but I cannot do that because at least I need a secretary to prepare the reports and to have all of the paperwork. Or I can subcontract everyone, but then I am not an employer. But when you go to the standards, the employer at a labor at a work site, the responsibility is that of the general contractor. But as much as I try to contact that person who says is the one that has the subcontractors and no employees, I cannot act against that person because they are not in the list as an employer. But if I am the general contractor and I have a secretary and I have a corporate name or I have a certain number of employees, even though I don't have anyone working in the project, I can be liable as control employer. The control employer watches for the security of the project. Those type of examples must be seen. I go to the extremes. I believe that they are assuming that I want to build a building and I hire a lot of people. But if I am the owner there and I need to bring a general contractor to control the plumbing, electricity, concrete, and everything, unless I do it on my own. And that is no one can do that. I should have everything subcontracted because the companies I have found in the street are companies that are management companies. What they do is they hold all of the paperwork, getting the permits, and they don't have employees getting dirty. I sometimes hire a subcontractor. So it's important to understand that a person that doesn't have employees cannot be regulated by the OSHA law. Was it understood? I see you very quiet. I think I lost you for a moment, maybe. Are we understanding each other? because the person said, I only have subcontractors. But if you are the control person and you have people with your subcontractors, at the beginning of that construction regulation, you will find there's an area talking about the contractual responsibility and construction. This happens a lot. And you need to see that in this example that they don't have employees. I want to be clear, if they don't have employees, we won't be able of working with that person. It happened to me in a discussion. I don't know if you were here on Friday when I was asked the question. The contractor I brought to the project, who is Juan the plumber, and he doesn't have employees. The law applies to Juan the plumber? No, it doesn't. But I am the general contractor. I brought him. If he creates the risk, if I have control to take action and tell him, you don't have to do this, then they will go against me. When the plumber will not be, or the law cannot be enforced on Juan the plumber, but on me. It can happen, okay? Okay, we are finishing. Jose Herrera, are you around, connected with us? We want to thank you again, all of the collaborators that were part of this initiative, starting by OSHA in the United States. Jose Herrera is with us, but there has been other people from the agency that have been also working in this effort. Rogers University specifically that has been working with us. The Association of Contractors Puerto Rico chapter, Associated General Contractors of America, and a nationwide organization, NIOSH, which is the National Institute for Security and Occupational Health of the United States. Puerto Rico OSHA has been with us, Mr. Victor Seda, and thank you to our instructors, Jose Hernando Fernandez and Roberto Miranda, who have been this afternoon with us. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. And we hope at some point being in a different opportunity with you, providing you guidance on this topic or any other topic. I hope none of the collaborators, I did not forget any of the collaborators. We need to thank for the, and the next solidarity for the videos we were able to see, and also people from CPWR